was not easy. Russia was surrounded by enemies. The imperialists didn't want the new Soviet Republic to succeed. Lenin said that our system was superior to theirs, and that our system was inevitably going to destroy theirs. Lenin even said that they may destroy the Russian Revolution or may overthrow him, Lenin, but it would make no difference at all. The course of history was inevitable. However, later, Bolsheviks came to the conclusion that socialism could be built in one single country, without the world proletarian revolution. So, the Russian Revolution just marked the choice of this country, Russia. Russia was chosen for this outstanding experiment, building of socialism.
Well, that's after the revolution. The first year, almost all the ideas, almost all the strategies, political strategies and so on, came from him. By 1919, 1920, he was absolute dictator. Nobody dared to stand up to him. And then he gradually passed on the mantle to Stalin. But all the ideas, the Red Terror, for example, which cost really tens of thousands of lives, the Communist International, the activities of communists abroad, the establishment of a one-party state, war communism, all came from him. Every now and then he would have to retreat. He couldn't quite have his will prevail. But by and large, almost everything that the Soviet government did after taking power was his doing.
I believe there was a degree of idealism in the 20s and the 1930s. There was a readiness to believe and to be inspired. There was idealism, especially amongst the youth, some of the major projects of that time. It's very understandable. They have been led to believe that a virtually hopeless situation obtained economically before. They believed a new, potentially very prosperous, very just society could be created, and they were inspired by this. I think there's no question of this. The inspiration was lost, clearly, in the great majority of cases after World War II. People simply came numbly to accept the existing system without a great deal of hope for the system. Sure, it was very easy for people who've been indoctrinated by propaganda to speak in terms of believing in a future, in a future of material bounty and spiritual realization. But I think very few people genuinely believed it.
Usually, Americans ask me this question: how was it under communism? And I usually don't know what to answer. I guess it was more simple than now. At that time, I believed that the world could be subdivided into right or wrong, good or bad, and people around were either friends or foes. I remember in one of the books in our school library, I read a slogan: those who are not with us are against us. Lenin's friend, writer Gorky, whom we studied at school, once said, if the enemy does not surrender, he is exterminated. Frankly, most of the people around were friends. I guess somewhere along the way, they must have surrendered.
Well, for Lenin, you either were with him or you were against him. There was nothing neutral. You could not say, this was particularly, of course, painful after he came to power. It wasn't possible to say, I'm not a Bolshevik, I'm not an anti-Bolshevik, I'm a scholar. I just want to do my researches, or I want to work in biology or in medicine. No. You had to declare yourself. You're either Bolshevik, or if you're not a Bolshevik, you're an enemy. That, of course, was a devastating thing for Russia, because it forced a lot of people to leave the country. It forced many other people to retreat into their own shell and stop being publicly active. And on the rest of the population, it imposed a kind of hypocrisy, a kind of schizophrenia, where people had to pretend en masse that they were for it, whereas in fact they weren't. And when I traveled to Russia, and I went for the first time in '57, 4 years after Stalin's death, it was very evident that, and the worst thing of it was that everybody was lying, everybody was pretending. And that is one of the effects of this Lenin psychology, because you had to pretend that you were for Bolsheviks, otherwise you were an enemy.
Those who are not with us are against us. That was a formula making my little world plain and simple. But sometimes I was facing questions for which this formula didn't work. My parents used to tell me that there were some things I shouldn't tell anybody, even my best friends in school. That was the first time I got my own little secrets. I shouldn't tell anyone that before the revolution, my grandmother's father owned a factory, and that she was put in jail when she was 16 because her apartment was used for anti-Bolshevik meetings in the 1920s.